Think of international motor racing and you don't instantly think of India. But for 42 years there has been an all-India race meeting at the start of the year, and in 1999 it was at the Madras circuit, Sriperumbudur. Many an invited English and European team competed not only in Formula 3 but in the international 250cc bike race as well, at a challenging near 2.5-mile circuit, the foundations for which were laid by a certain Jackie Stewart a number of years ago. Teams from England, from Germany, from the Czech Republic all converged on the circuit, amongst them Charles Hall.
It's a new challenge for me. The biggest thing was the heat. Being away from home, I get quite homesick, but no, it's a new challenge, new cars, and I've enjoyed it.
Perhaps a throwback to the way racing used to be in Britain in the 60s and 70s, where your drivers and the teams were the main focus of the event, and they used to put a lot of effort into the promotion of it. This is a big event for all. It's a huge event for MRF and a huge event in India. It's front page news on the daily papers.
It's a really interesting circuit to drive around, purely on the shape of it. It's just, unfortunately, it's quite bumpy.
I was going to ask you about that, how physical it is, because you're being thrown around in the car. You must get rather battered yourself.
You have to be a bit careful. You know, it is very, very bumpy. It's the worst place you could come to for bumps. But it's very hard work. Fortunately, the races aren't very long, and with this heat, you don't want long races. So but it's still enjoyable. It's good to come to a different country and sample the whole atmosphere here.
The MRF Grand Prix is run over 2 successive weekends, and each category has 2 races per Sunday. This is the first of the 2 250cc international bike races. Koji Amamaya, the man on pole position, alongside him is British rider Martin Nutt. And if you think it's bumpy in a Formula 3 car, then spare a thought for the bikers.
It's a great layout of a track. It's some real lovely big corners. You get the thing right over, you know, just sitting on your knee, and it's real good. But it's just that bumpy, you know. There's a lot of unpredictable bumps, you know, where, like some laps you could come across it and it would just, and then next lap come up and you'd just be absolutely sideways, you know. But it's nice layout. If the local guy Aspie has his head screwed on, he knows what they need to get a good race here, and he's pushing hard. So I'd say a couple of years they'll have a great track, so they will.
Koji Amamaya nearest us on pole position as the lights go green for this first of 2 10-lap races for them. We're on board with the German rider Guido Fielder, the man that won the 1998 Production Cup with his Suzuki RGV 250. Down to MRF corner they go for the first time. But it's Koji Amamaya, the man in the lead, being chased at the moment by number 60, Carsten Kurz, the very rapid German mechanic. And the rest of the field come battling their way through, including further back there, number 80, that is Guido Fielder. At the moment with a lot of work to do, looking at the battles going on ahead of him. He turns his way through the long right-hander of Apollo curve and then out onto the fast back of the circuit. Koji Amamaya, though, the man in the lead. Carsten Kurz now into second place. Martin Nutt, the Northern Irish rider, down in third. And Martin Nutt now doing his best to fight back. Only 21 years of age, Martin Nutt. Carsten Kurz ahead of him. But this is the man in control. Koji Amamaya, for the first time, racing outside his native Japan. He swings his way now through the final corner on the lap. Looking back as towards us there, in 4th place comes number 40, that being the Czech Republic rider, Petr Polansky, who at the moment is losing touch. Looks over his shoulder, no one really to pressure him, as Guido Fielder now tries to snatch away a place, very nearly making contact with the bike in front, can't quite squeeze up the inside, threading his way now through towards the end of the lap. A very difficult right-hander to get right that he's just come through. Guido Fielder now comes into the last turn on the lap, chasing at the moment after number 25, Akihiro Yamada, the second of the 2 Japanese riders. Here is Martin Nutt up into second place though. Now he's got himself ahead of the German Carsten Kurz, and he's doing his level best to attack the race leader, Koji Amamaya. Now at the moment, Amamaya seems to have everything under control as into the pits to retire comes the Sri Lankan Jidanta Malagamura, who's also racing in the Formula 3 competition as well. Martin Nutt through into the lead, down to second place, slips Koji Amamaya. Now, are we going to have a British winner, or can the Japanese rider fight back? Well, he's not losing touch with Martin Nutt, is he? The thing to remember about these is with 2 races on a very testing circuit, the tyres have got to last both races for them, so you don't want to stress them too much in the first race of the day. And I just wonder whether Amamaya is hanging back to try and preserve those tyres. Either way, he's tucked right up behind Martin Nutt as they come to the line. The battle for the lead continues. Marty Nutt still ahead, but only just, because Koji Yamamaya goes around the outside, then up the inside, but again, Marty Nutt just able to cut across and hang on to it. So Marty Nutt still leads. Koji Yamamaya right up behind him. And the Northern Irishman is having to work so hard now to fend off Koji Yamamaya. Britain leads Japan, but Yamamaya, I don't think, has given up yet. He's having to go on the inside, and through he goes. Koji Yamamaya goes back into the lead. Great bit of riding, sees a gap on the inside, dives through, and Koji Yamamaya leads once again in this, the first of the two 250cc bike races in the MRF Grand Prix. Somebody in trouble there. The machine down, the rider okay. That's Tony Anderson, another Brit. I rather fear that may have done a fair bit of damage. He's Marty Nutt's teammate. And also in trouble there, pulling off to retire as well, is Mark Smith. He is the third of the Bill Smith Motor Limited entries. The other is Marty Nutt. 2 down, 1 to go. Marty Nutt down in second place. It's Koji Yamamaya, though, coming up now to the checkered flag, who's the man in the lead, and he's really trying very hard. Look, even on the last lap, absolutely on the ragged edge. Koji Yamamaya comes through, checkered flag at the ready. The first of the 4 races goes the way of Koji Yamamaya, with Marty Nutt coming through to finish in second place, just 1.7 seconds behind him. His first race outside Japan, and a very good win for Koji Yamamaya. Marty Nutt finishes in second place ahead of Carsten Kurz. German rider Max Neukirchner finishing fourth ahead of fellow countryman Guido Oetgam. Within sixth place, the local rider Aspi Vatena. A delighted Koji Yamamaya on the top step of the podium. 1 down, 3 to go. Indian driver Narain Karthikeyan on pole position for the first of the 2 Formula 3 races here this afternoon. The Indian driver having blitzed the opposition in qualifying. He drives for Carlin Motorsport, and alongside him his French teammate Jeremy Dufour, a man only with enough money to do this one meeting so far. Martin O'Connell, though, in the Toms, being pushed into the pit lane. Disaster for the Walsall driver. That was on the green flag lap. This is Martin's view of a flying lap.
Getting the power on early for a good speed down the straight. Into fourth, into fifth gear before the first corner. Very bumpy on the turn in. Lift early, get it again tight in. Trying to get the power on, but it's very difficult. Short burst of power for the second corner, down to second. Turn it in early and tight. Again, staying second now, along to the third corner. Again, it's very slippy here on the exit, running very wide. Fourth, and into fifth gear. Flat out through the S's. Coming up to the fastest point on the circuit. About 135 miles an hour. Very bumpy under the brakes. Down into second gear, trying to hold the car in, but bouncing around a lot. Again in second, start trying to hold the car in. It's very bumpy here, this very long right-hander. Short acceleration up into third, for a long left, brake, still in third. Drifting a little bit wide in the middle of the corner. Again, it's very bumpy, trying to get the power on. Full power by now. Up into fourth gear, flat through the kink. Up into fifth, running a little bit wide. Very bumpy. Now approaching a second gear corner, very tight right-hander. Again, bumpy. Tight in, accelerate early. Up into third gear, very slippy here, turning in. Then trying to get the power on, full power. Into fourth gear, approaching a very fast kink, just lift. Then dab the power again. Down to second, very slow around here, keeping really tight. Accelerating hard, lifting, turning in very early again. Very tight, and then accelerating into the last corner. Up into third. Very slippy on the brakes here, braking, turning in early, and getting the power on early for a good exit and hopefully a quick lap.
10 laps ahead of us there. Nearest ours is Narain Karthikeyan. Jeremy Dufour alongside him. The lights are red, they go to green. A good start by Charles Hall there from fourth on the grid in the surviving Toms. Martin O'Connell hopefully will start from the pit lane, but Charles Hall, in his first ever Formula 3 race, makes a demon start. Getting a Formula 3 car away from the line is notoriously difficult. Martin O'Connell there joins in from the pits. The clutch in a Formula 3 car, very much like a switch, either on or off, in or out. John Ingram, for example, stalled on the grid on the green flag lap. But Charles Hall has made an absolutely cracking start. He's tucked right up behind this man, Jeremy Dufour, as they turn their way then for the first time out of Diamond Corner up to the far side of the circuit. The speed building all the time. And this is Charles Hall's view. Narain Karthikeyan, the man who knows the circuit better than anyone else here, who's already charging away up front. Jeremy Dufour in second place, now just starting to edge away a little bit from Charles Hall. But Charles, in his first ever Formula 3 race, going very well already. There is Jeremy Dufour, as here is the leader, Narain Karthikeyan, coming towards us, the Carlin Motorsport run. Mugen Honda powered Dallara turns its way through the final turn on the lap. Jeremy Dufour second. And there is Charles Hall in the Toms, the leading non-Dallara. Bit of opposite lot there. Charles Hall sawing away at the wheel as the ex-Formula Vauxhall racer comes out of that final corner. Behind in fourth place is John Ingram. And there, turning his way through MRF corner, is Charles Hall in third place. And his teammate, Martin O'Connell, still has problems, look. Heading back to the pit lane. Poor old Martin has only done a lap. And sadly, the Toms is back in. A replay of the start from Charles Hall. Engine note rises, lights go to green. And he absolutely rockets away. The circuit narrow, remember, so he can't really find a way past or even between Dufour and Karthikeyan. But a good third place going into MRF corner and a cracking getaway from Charles Hall in the Toms. In trouble though, Dilantha Malagamua, remember the Sri Lankan, retired from the earlier 250cc bike race, and sadly his 1993 Dallara is crawling round. The Sri Lankan, who races a lot in Japan, he's racing Formula 3 and Formula 3000 in Japan, is in real trouble. And that car, Mugen Honda powered, I rather fear, is going to head for the pit lane. Karthikeyan laps him, Jeremy Dufour is about to lap him as well. Not a great start to the weekend for Dilantha Malagamua. Retires from the bike race, retires from Formula 3 as well. The view from Charles Hall's car, there is Malagamua on the inside, he lapped him. And Charles at the moment, with no one really to battle against, just keeping out of trouble, gaining experience of the car and the circuit. But you gauge a real indication now of just how bumpy it is. You can see the bodywork getting jolted around. Just look at Charles Hall's head now, watch his hands as the car goes down towards MRF corner. His head being thrown all over the place. And it really is a very fast circuit, and because of those bumps, very difficult indeed to keep everything under control. Karthikeyan, the master of it. Narain Karthikeyan pulling away up front. Still second is Jeremy Dufour, his Carlin Motorsport teammate. I'm very impressed with this man. Charles Hall, third at the moment. He's racing Formula Renault in the UK. He's racing Formula Vauxhall. His father, Bill, used to race historic Formula 1 cars. So Charles, having been born into motor racing, putting the lessons learned from his father to good effect. Using the curve there as he now turns his way up towards the Apollo curve. And that is Stephen Young. Sadly, he may be lapped before the end of this, but Stephen in a 1987 Reynard, the oldest car in the race, Volkswagen powered, is going to escape being lapped, I think, because as he comes up to the final corner on the lap, Karthikeyan, who now will emerge over the crest of the hill, is on his way up to take the checkered flag. Stephen Young on target even so in this race for fifth position. Narain Karthikeyan sliding his way up to the checkered flag. He's going to win the first part of the MRF Grand Prix for Formula 3 cars. He comes across the line, a dominant winner. Over 10 seconds clear of the rest of them. Jeremy Dufour finishing in second place, and this man, Charles Hall, to finish third in his maiden Formula 3 race. The overall winner of the MRF Grand Prix is decided on points from the 4 races, and Narain Karthikeyan puts himself in an immediate lead from Jeremy Dufour and Charles Hall, with John Ingram and Stephen Young completing the finishers. .800cc Suzuki transverse-mounted engines powered Formula India cars. Arjun Balu, the man to beat, lined up on pole position for the second of the 2 races on the first weekend. Very much India's leading club driver.
It's a good entry-level class for people who want to start racing, but the problem is in India there isn't a higher class to go to. So the drivers over there have to stick with it unless, like in '96, we got a Formula 4 to drive. So if we get a higher class to drive, then we wouldn't be driving them. But it's a good entry-level class, and I think there should be a higher class to move to.
For the opposition, though, they just want to beat Arjun Balu from pole position and stormed away into an immediate lead, despite the best efforts of those behind. Amongst those to look for, number 25 is Arjun Balu's brother Sanjay, and also worth keeping an eye to, number 100, K.E. Kumar, always a front-runner in the Formula India category. The second place battle was between Kumar and Sanjay Balu, as Arjun Balu started to break clear up front. It was obvious that Sanjay Balu wasn't going to be content sitting in third place for long. Heading towards the Dunlop curve, he made an effort up the inside, he touched Kumar's wheels, and the pair of them spun off onto the grass. Sanjay Balu was able to rejoin first, K.E. Kumar dropping a long way down the order, but they weren't the only people to make a mistake. Also having gone off was J.D. Madden. Arjun Balu continued to lead, though, from Narain Kumar in second place and Gautam Maini third, whilst further back the battle raged on between J.D. Madden and K.E. Kumar, the pair of them almost banging wheels on their way to the MRF corner. All this, though, was of no interest whatsoever to Arjun Balu, who was serenely pulling away up front, would win by over 8 seconds by the end of the 5-lap race. Very much the class of the field in Formula India, and also very successful in the Group N Suzuki Esteem category. The top three, though, at the end of the first weekend in Formula India are Jumbalu, Naren Kumar and Gautam Maini. Can this man, Koji Yamamaya, make it 2 out of 2? Well, earlier on in the day, he won the first 250cc international bike race. He's on pole position in Marty Nutt, who led earlier on in the day, alongside him on that front row of the grid. They had a great battle earlier on. Yamamaya is looking to make it 2 out of 2. 10 laps for the 250cc bikes. The lights go to green. Good start yet again by Koji Yamamaya. The German rider, Carsten Kurz, on bike number 60, is also away very quickly indeed as well, as down to the MRF corner they go for the first time. The field turns through there, number 5 going through, Guido Oeltkem, and the German rider then in midfield. A replay of the start, and just as in the first race, a great getaway by Koji Yamamaya, and his tactic then seems to be to try to break the opposition on the opening lap. Carsten Kurz is there in second place, and third at the moment on bike number 70 is Max Neukirchner, whose father used to be a very successful bike racer himself. And Max Neukirchner, first time he's raced in India, going very well in third place. Martin Nutt is fourth, and there in trouble is Akihiro Yamada, and that bike being pushed into retirement. Martin Nutt, though, turning his way through now. He's got to try and work his way up through the order if at all possible. Yamamaya is the race leader. Carsten Kurz in second. Martin Nutt going for third off Neukirchner. Up the inside he goes. Is he going to be able to go through? Yes, he is. Martin Nutt goes through, up into third position then. Now, what can he do about Carsten Kurz ahead of him? I rather fear that he's not going to be able to do anything at all about Yamamaya, who is getting further and further ahead. Carsten Kurz looks over his shoulder, sees Martin Nutt having a go, and through goes the British rider. Martin Nutt up into second place. Carsten Kurz down to third. The fight further back, raging on as well. Number 80 there is Guido Fielder, and tucked up behind him on bike number 10 is the Indian rider, Aspi Bathena. Koji Yamamaya, though, still the man in control up front. We look back, though, to see what's going on, and the battle's raging on. Well, Carsten Kurz losing out to Martin Nutt, up into second place now. Is Martin Nutt going to be able to bring the gap down? Let's see, here he comes. Carsten Kurz giving energetic chase. Martin Nutt does not need a battle at the moment. If he has to defend second place, he's going to slow himself up. He really needs now to get his head down, to concentrate on getting the best lines, the quickest lines, and catching this man, Koji Yamamaya. The Japanese rider, his knees skimming the ground, swings his way up now to the final sequence of corners, about to crest the rise. Very difficult, very bumpy right-hander leading into that, and Yamamaya continuing to go on the edge all the time. Up to the checkered flag, now he finally decides to relax, wheelies his way to the line, and Koji Yamamaya, who's made best use of his MRF tires to preserve them during the two races, makes it 2 out of 2 in the 250cc bike class. Martin Nutt finishing second, and Carsten Kurz third ahead of Max Neukirchner. Guido Oeltkem in fifth again, and Aspi Bathena rounds out the top 6. Koji Yamamaya then, a delighted winner, 2 out of 2 in the 250 class. Martin Nutt, the runner-up, his second time. If Koji Yamamaya can make it 2 out of 2, can Naren Karthikeyan do the same? He won the first Formula 3 race, the Indian on pole position for this, the second 10-lap leg. It's the same grid as before, so Jeremy Dufour will line up alongside him, and Martin O'Connell will line up third on the grid. Martin having initially come out here as a driver coach, and at the last moment discovering he was racing as well.
As far as I know, the decision was actually made the day before we left on the plane. I was coming anyway, but my role completely changed then, and I'd got to actually drive, so things have been very much last minute. The cars arrived 2 days ago, and then the rest of the equipment arrived yesterday, so we haven't really had a chance to run the cars, hence the problem in the race.
The team's ready then on the pit wall, looking at the grid, including David Walton, sadly, a non-starter in this race. As the lights go to green, a good start again by the two Toms, Martin O'Connell and Charles Hall, but on the narrow circuit now they're going to try to find a gap and dive between the two Dalaras. They can't do it. It's Karthikeyan leading second, is Jeremy Dufour. O'Connell goes third, and fourth with wisps of smoke out of the back of the car there already is Charles Hall. For the first time then coming through Diamond Corner, John Ingram runs a little bit wide there, further back in the blue Speed Sport car, but already Naren Karthikeyan is getting away. Jeremy Dufour in second place, then O'Connell and Charles Hall third and fourth in the two Toms. The Toms, the chassis of course, that still is doing its best outside Japan to conquer the mighty Dalaras. The Dallara, the class of a Formula 3 field in Europe. And you can still see the smoke there coming out of the back of the Tom's Toyota engine in Charles Hall's car. Good scrap there for fifth. John Ingram ahead of Dylan Malagamua. His Dallara going much better this time around. And then Stephen Young's Reynard as we look at a replay of the start on board with Charles Hall. Good start look, but again, because the circuit is so narrow, the gap narrows as well between the two Dallaras in the front row of the grid. He's nowhere to go. Martin O'Connell comes up the inside, so thanks very much. I'll have third place off a teammate. Narain Karthikeyan, though, out on his own once again. The others starting to learn the circuit, but they're not learning quick enough. Karthikeyan leading, teammate Jeremy Dufour second, and Martin O'Connell now getting a little bit closer in that third place. And this is Charles Hall, the car slowing right down. You saw the smoke, he's got a problem, no doubt about that. And Charles Hall now, I fear, is going to have to pull off into retirement. He's not even going to get as far as the pit lane. A mixed day then for Rowan Racing, which runs the Toms. O'Connell starts from and retires to the pit lane in the first race. Charles Hall finishes third. O'Connell is third at the moment, but his teammate Charles Hall pulls into retirement. And remember, with the MRF Grand Prix being decided on points, that's really bad news for their hopes, because now both of them have recorded one non-finish and therefore no points from one race. And that really does set back their chances. Malagamua coming towards us with John Ingram behind him now. John Ingram having gone rally crossing and dropped back behind the Sri Lankan. And Stephen Young, the ex-Formula First and Caterham racer there with a Volkswagen-powered Reynard 873, the oldest car at the meeting, soldiering on behind the pair of them. John Ingram inching up onto the tail of Malagamua. And John Ingram, who raced for Speed Sport in the national class of the British Championship, trying to catch a man who's raced in the Japanese Formula 3 series. Over the line they go. Malagamua racing Formula 3 and 250cc bikes. And you can see there the way the car is bottoming, just how bumpy this circuit is. John Ingram, for example, one of the drivers who wears elbow and knee pads, because all the shaking around inside the car that goes on means he ends up with very sore limbs and lots of bruises. Narain Karthikeyan, though, well used to the circuit, and he's up front once again. Jeremy Dufour second and Martin O'Connell is third. But it looks as though it's going to be 2 out of 2 for Narain Karthikeyan. Jeremy Dufour safe in that second place, because although Martin O'Connell is going well, he's not close enough to be able to challenge the French driver at the moment. Jeremy Dufour sliding his way and off. There go Ingram and Malagamua. The two of them tangle. Damage done to John Ingram's car. Through goes Stephen Young. That therefore puts him up into 4th place now. But poor El Malagamua having a really torrid day. John Ingram off as well. The two have certainly tangled. Now, don't forget Ingram was trying to get past Malagamua. Let's try and work out who did what to which and to whom. Narain Karthikeyan comes through the wreckage then, on target for his second win in the MRF Grand Prix. Another 2 in a week's time and he will have sewn it up. Easing his way now to the checkered flag. This the replay though. John Ingram dives up the inside of Malagamua, brakes as late as he can, slides wide. Malagamua still alongside him, and John Ingram with nowhere to go because he's going too quickly, clips Malagamua. The pair of them go off the circuit and spin into retirement. So a second on finish for Malagamua. John Ingram out as well, but Narain Karthikeyan on his way to victory. Jeremy Dufour, his Carlin Motorsport teammate, still chasing on after him in second place. The two Mugen Honda powered Dallaras on target for a 1-2. Across the line goes Jeremy Dufour, as this man, Martin O'Connell, is on target for 3rd place. But the absence of points after not finishing the first race may cost him dear come the end of the 1999 MRF Grand Prix. Martin O'Connell turns his way now up through that final turn, accelerates his way towards the start and finish line. And through now comes the Red Toms, Martin O'Connell in 3rd place. And the only other survivor of this rather vigorous race is Stephen Young with the Reynard 873. But Narain Karthikeyan is on target now for the second win of the day. The checkered flag is at the ready. This is going to give Karthikeyan the lead of the championship, no doubt about that. Jeremy Dufour will be second on aggregate, but Stephen Young is going to take 3rd as the only other driver to have finished both races. So despite the car being so old, 12 years old now, the Reynard of Stephen Young, is going to bring him to 3rd place on aggregate. Narain Karthikeyan, though, the race winner. Second goes to Jeremy Dufour. A great day for Narain, a great day also for Carlin Motorsport. 2 1-2s for their Dallara. Karthikeyan, Dufour, O'Connell and Stephen Young, the only 4 finishers from the second race in the MRF Formula 3 Grand Prix. Narain Karthikeyan again on the top step of the podium, this time joined by Jeremy Dufour and Stephen Young, and battle resumes in just 1 week's time. A week, they say, is a long time in politics. In motor racing, it's even longer. Narain Karthikeyan victorious one weekend in the MRF Grand Prix, in hospital the next.
Narain had a car crash 100 yards outside the gate. He's lucky to be alive, to be honest. Head-on accident. It's mad. You come all this way, you thrash around a racetrack and survive, and you almost get killed on the roads. It's disaster.
So what does the team do now then? You in theory, one driver down, but you have been able to regroup, haven't you?
Yeah, we've quite fortunate. We've got Akbar Ibrahim, another local driver. Hasn't driven actually since '95 though, so we've drafted him at the last moment, and yeah, he should be fine. He knows the track very well.
David Walton doesn't know the track that well, having not yet raced. He's had a character building time, his Alfa Romeo engine has ingested valves, he's had drive shafts break, and finally the car is now ready to roll. But David comes in the smallest of teams.
Our team is probably by far the smallest of the outfits that are here. It consists of myself and Steve, who are driving, Clive Crockford, who's the team manager, and my friend Justin Boyce, who's come to give us a hand. And we were probably the least equipped people to have to go through all the trauma that we've been through. Saying that, we've coped with it very well. The other teams are obviously, in true British spirit, have all mucked in and helped and lent us stuff, and we got through. We even managed to, the biggest stroke of luck of all, we found an engine that would fit our car in a warehouse a mile down the road that we could take from. It must be the only other Formula 3 engine in India, and it fitted our car. So the whole thing's just been strokes of luck after strokes of luck through all the bad luck.
But now more bad luck for David Walton, the team being prevented from letting him out onto the circuit. The scrutineers can't find any pressure in the air restrictor. Now, normally you're allowed to race like that, and the scrutineers will do checks at the end of the race by taking the cams off, but they're not going to let him do that. They're not letting the car out. The team very upset, as you can see, and so David Walton again has to sit out a race. Jeremy Dufour, though, lines up on pole position in the Carlin Motorsport Dallara Mugen Honda. Alongside him is this man, number 20, Martin O'Connell, who failed to finish the opening race and therefore already has a points disadvantage. Third on the grid is Akbar Ibrahim, replacing Loren Karthikeyan, and this man, John Ingram, of course, eager to make amends after last week when he stalled on the grid in the one race and then had an accident with Dilanfa Malagamur in the second.
Well, I think the actual damage and the accident itself proved that I wasn't in the wrong. But it's a racing accident, these things happen, so looking forward to the race this weekend. We've got another couple of chances to prove myself, so we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. 10 laps in a moment. Red lights are on. The engine notes rise. The lights go to green. Now a great stop by Ibrahim. Look at the yellow guy. He dives out from between Dufour and O'Connell. But it's Martin O'Connell who leads Ibrahim. And side by side with him, wheel to wheel, Jeremy Dufour. Charles Hall goes round the outside though. Up into third place. We're on board with Charles Hall now. Jeremy Dufour got so mixed up there battling with Ibrahim that Charles Hall came charging round the outside up into third place. Great driving from Charles Hall. So Martin O'Connell leads, Ibrahim is in second place, in third is Charles Hall, and Jeremy Dufour from pole position is down in fourth place, and that really was a dreadful getaway. Martin O'Connell rocketed past Jeremy Dufour, and he was then so bogged down trying to defend second unsuccessfully from Akbar Ibrahim that Charles Hall was able to go past him as well. But Ibrahim now putting Martin O'Connell under pressure. There's John Ingram in fifth place, sixth is Malagamur, already with a battered front fin look. The right-hand front fin trailing along the ground, those aerodynamic appendages, very, very important. That's going to really upset the handling of Malagamur's car. As Akbar Ibrahim takes to the dirt there, scatters it into the face of Charles Hall. Into the Dunlop curve. Martin O'Connell leading, Akbar Ibrahim second, third Charles Hall, fourth Jeremy Dufour. Great battle, three of them then, nose to tail for second place. Through they come. Meantime, Martin O'Connell, despite a bit of a twitch there, is being able to pull away. You can see that offline, this circuit is still very, very dusty indeed, and therefore very slippery. Akbar Ibrahim second. This man, Charles Hall third, coming up to the end of lap one. Jeremy Dufour in fourth place, not quite close enough to attack there for third. But Martin O'Connell turns his way through that final corner, under the MRF gantry, then towards the MRF arch and into MRF corner. And all these cars, remember, running on MRF control tyres. The first time that MRF has made a slick tyre. Past us goes John Ingram, and there Stephen Young in the Volkswagen-powered Reynard 873, the car run by Clive Crockford. The smallest team, but Stephen Young upholding its honour. A replay of the start now, just watch Charles Hall go, but look at Ibrahim, he dives out from the second row of the grid. He's squeezed by O'Connell and by Jeremy Dufour. Charles Hall stays on that outside line, finds his gap and moves up into third place. Jeremy Dufour has to slot in behind in fourth. But Martin O'Connell now making good his escape, pulling inexorably clear now of Akbar Ibrahim. In third place there is Charles Hall. And Jeremy Dufour in touch, but I don't really think now he's going to be able to do very much at all about getting back ahead of Charles Hall. Hall all over the back of Akbar Ibrahim now. The slightly newer Dallara fending off the tops. Charles Hall in only his third Formula 3 race, racing against a man who's not raced for 2 or 3 years, so it's a very equal fight by the look of it. And Akbar Ibrahim at the moment being able to defend second place from the grimly determined Charles Hall. Again being bumped around. Very, very bumpy this circuit, very fast. Well, look at Charles Hall's head, for example, being thrown across the cockpit. Jeremy Dufour looks up the inside, trying to take third off Charles Hall now. And all of a sudden, Charles has to make a decision. Does he defend third or attack for second place? Let's see what he does. Martin O'Connell sliding his way through. Akbar Ibrahim in second place. Hall in the red toms in third. Right on the tail of Akbar Ibrahim now as they come to the final couple of corners on this lap. Is he going to be able to dive up the inside? He's not quite close enough to do it though as they come into the braking area. Yes, he is! He's going for it up the inside. Look at all the dust as he goes offline, but through goes Charles Hall. Fantastic. Charles Hall up into second place, down to third goes Akbar Ibrahim. Now Jeremy Dufour is attacking as well as they go down to MRF corner. Great driving by Charles Hall. You can see how dusty it was, how slippery it was offline. He's gone through up into second place. Now to third goes Jeremy Dufour. And down to fourth, I'm afraid, goes Akbar Ibrahim. Now maybe this is because he's been out of the cockpit for a long time, or maybe the car is not quite set up to his liking. But all of a sudden, I'm afraid, Akbar Ibrahim slipping down the order. So, race order now, O'Connell from Charles Hall, and this is how Charles Hall got that second place. He dives up the inside. Look at all the dust as he goes offline. Limited traction as a result of that. Very heavy braking, and Charles Hall masters the manoeuvre, and up into second place he goes. Great stuff. Now, Jeremy Dufour following him through up into third place, and all over the back of Charles Hall as well now. So Charles Hall's busy race is not over yet. He's having to defend once again because Jeremy Dufour is right with him. Martin O'Connell, an easy race leader at the moment. Here for second and third come Charles Hall and then Jeremy Dufour. It's a Tom's 1-2 at the moment. Third is the Delara as Charles Hall runs wide with 2 wheels on the dirt. Wow, that was close. He gets away with it. He goes into MRF corner now. As further back, Dilanfa Malagamua comes towards us in 5th place at the moment. We're on board now with Charles Hall using all of the curbs in his efforts to pull away from Jeremy Dufour. And this is the view from Martin O'Connell, out on his own at the moment. The lap record holder here at the Sriperumbudur circuit. Now Martin O'Connell, of course, needing to score points because that is how you win the MRF Grand Prix on aggregate. He didn't score at all in the first race, but he has been helped greatly, of course, by Naren Karthikeyan not being able to take part this weekend. So all of a sudden now, the MRF Grand Prix is really between Jeremy Dufour there, who's been consistent, and Martin O'Connell, who now looks as though he's going to score a win. Martin in the red tops, then turning his way up towards the final corner. He came to India ready just to coach Charles Hall, and then a decision was made that he was going to race as well, but he's quite glad he did now. Up to the checkered flag, Martin O'Connell is going to win the third leg of the MRF Grand Prix Formula 3 cars. That makes it 2 wins to Karthikeyan, and 1 now to Martin O'Connell. He comes home the winner, and Charles Hall, his teammate, second, Jeremy Dufour third, ahead of Akbar Ibrahim, Dilanfa Malagamua, and John Ingram completing the top 6. As a very happy Martin O'Connell takes the top step on the podium. 1 more race to go, and Jeremy Dufour leads the MRF Grand Prix on aggregate by just 2 points from O'Connell. Leg 3 of the 250cc bike race. German rider Carsten Kurz on pole position with double winner Koji Yamamaya alongside him, and British rider Martin Nutt on that front row of the grid. 10 laps ahead of us then for leg 3 of the 250cc bike race. Lights are red, they go to green very, very quickly. But again, Koji Yamamaya makes a demon start, and this man, Martin Nutt, is very slow away. Losing places hand over fist, going down to MRF corner, picks one up on the outside. But that was not a very Martin Nutt-esque start. I wonder whether he may have a problem. Koji Yamamaya has no problem at all. He's romping away in the lead. Second is Max Neukirchner. Carsten Kurz going well in third. Fourth is Petro Polanski. And Martin Nutt is indeed in trouble. Look, handle aloft, and Martin Nutt heading now for pit lane. Oh dear, that has cost him any chance at all now of winning on aggregate. Koji Yamamaya, though, now with Martin Nutt in retirement, all he has to do is win this third leg. No matter what happens in the fourth race, the championship is his. So Koji Yamamaya on target for a win in the MRF Grand Prix. Great battle for second place, though. The 2 Germans, Max Neukirchner on the red bike, and tucked up behind him, Carsten Kurz, number 60. Turning their way now through Apollo Curve, the 2 of them very close indeed. What can Carsten Kurz do now to find a way past? Well, he's all over the back of Neukirchner, heading towards Apollo Curve. Brake, swing their way through the right-hander. Carsten Kurz not quite close enough to have a go, but now he is. Look, much, much quicker through that turn, brings the gap down, and Martin Nutt brings the bike down pit lane. I'm afraid he is out of the race. The Honda then in the pits. Good battle they're going on here between number 5, which is Guido Oilcomb, and right up with him is number 1, the Czech Republic rider, Lukas Vorecha. The two of them very, very closely matched indeed, continuing their battle further down the order. Koji Yamamaya, however, is out on his own up front. The Japanese rider on target now to win the MRF Grand Prix for the 250cc bikes. In second place is, at the moment, Carsten Kurz, having got ahead of Max Neukirchner. Fourth is Petr Polanski, and then that battle going on behind him for 5th place between Oilcomb and Lukas Vorecha. Looking at number 40, Petr Polanski coming up now towards Apollo Curve, cranks the bike left, then right, accelerating now back towards us, swinging his way through the right-hander and accelerating off now up towards the next sequence of corners as there's a bike down. It's Carsten Kurz, the man in second place has gone. Carsten Kurz has dropped the machine and he's therefore out of the race. Up to third as a result will go Petr Polanski. Carsten Kurz is okay. You don't really want to go off anywhere around the Tripperumbador circuit. It's very fast and very demanding, but he's okay. Pushes the machine out of harm's way as there. Dilanfa Malagamua is trying to fend off the attentions of local rider Aspi Batena. Remember, Malagamua racing in Formula 3 as well as on his 250 bike. Aspi Batena goes up the inside on the Yamaha TZ250 and takes the place away, but Malagamua fights back. The Sri Lankan rider then going back ahead of him once again. Great battle they're having. This now for 6th place, and the Sri Lankan ahead of the Indian. Malagamua ahead of Aspi Batena, but Batena, who knows the circuit well, is fighting back, riding really well now. Heading towards the Catskill Arch, and there I'm afraid Batena just runs a little bit too wide, and that enables Malagamua to pull clear. A very fit man if he's racing bikes and cars, particularly given just how bumpy this circuit is. Batena better on the brakes though, brings the gap down once again, and he's right on the tail of Malagamua. Going for it on the outside, a very, very wide approach to the turn. Is it going to work? No, it's not. Aspi Batena, you can't fault him for trying. And Koji Yamamaya, meantime, is on his way to victory. The checkered flag is at the ready, and the Japanese rider knows that not only is he home and dry in this race, but also he's done enough to clinch the championship. Max Neukirchner, having his best result of the weekend, is chasing after him in second place, and on target for third is Petr Polanski. The checkered flag at the ready. Koji Yamamaya looks over his shoulder, guns the engine up now towards the checkered flag, and Yamamaya victorious in the MRF Grand Prix for the 250cc bikes. Koji Yamamaya then wins the MRF trophy from Max Neukirchner second and Petr Polanski third. Lukas Vorecha finishing in 4th ahead of Guido Oilcomb, and then Dilanfa Malagamua. So, for the 3rd time in 3 races, Koji Yamamaya on the top step of the podium, and now the winner on aggregate as well. In India, Group N is exclusively for the 1300cc Suzuki ST model. And just as in Formula India, the dominant driver is Arjun Balu.
These are basically rally cars that we use through the year, and they didn't have a good racing setup on them. So we had to make the best use of the stuff we had from rallying to make the car work, and it worked, and we had a good weekend.
And Arjun Balu had a good weekend. Second time around, he won the first race, and then in the Dr. Sabu Memorial Trophy, he shot away into an immediate lead. Opposition was going to come from number 17, Narendra Kumar, and also from 42. That was the car which was won the previous week in the hands of Rajesh Salvarajan. Further back in this, the second of the weekend's races, the drivers were becoming a little bit more gung-ho. For example, 32, Siva Ramakrishnan was going all over the grass in his efforts to work his way up through the field, and then we had them 3 abreast. Salvarajan losing out in that manoeuvre. Up front, though, it was Arjun Balu leading, despite the best efforts of Narendra Kumar to bring that gap down. Balu scored 2 wins in the 2 Formula India races and would make it 2 out of 2 in Group N as well. A dominant driver ahead of Kumar and the very experienced Kamlesh Patel. Up to the checkered flag to complete a great weekend of racing for him. 2 wins in Formula India, 2 in Group N. Proof indeed that Arjun Balu is India's best club racing driver. Joined on the podium by Narendra Kumar and Kamlesh Patel. The final 250cc bike race about to get underway for the MRF trophy. Carsten Kurz, the man on pole position, who fell in the previous race, but thankfully is okay. And this is the man who's won it on aggregate. Koji Yamamaya, delighted with his success and in good spirits as ever. Also in good spirits, the marshals, who've had a fairly long day with over 13 races, but they're still in good humour. Red lights on, they go to green, a good start again by Koji Yamamaya as the bike's rocking away down to the MRF corner. Yamamaya leading, Carsten Kurz on the outside, desperately needing to get ahead before that first turn, but to no avail. Through they swing them. Now, what can Martin Nutt do this time around to uphold British honour? Remember, mechanical problems forced him out in the third of the 4 races. So, Ammermeyer leading, Karsten Kurt second, Max Neukirchner going really well this weekend, is third at the moment. Onto the far side of the circuit they go for the first time, but already Ammermeyer is starting to break clear. Second at the moment is Karsten Kurtz, in third is Max Neukirchner, fourth is Akihiro Yamada, and Martin Nutt fifth as they go down towards the Dunlop curve. Hard on the brake, swinging into the right hand, and Nutt goes up the inside from fifth to third. Fantastic bit of riding. Martin Nutt up into third position. Great out-braking manoeuvre, and now he's starting to attack Karsten Kurtz. Meantime, Koji Ammermeyer continues to lead, and Martin Nutt is all over the back of Karsten Kurtz now, really fired up after failing to finish that third race of the 4. Now, can Martin Nutt go through into second place? There is Neukirchner fourth at the moment. Akihiro Yamada dropping back into fifth place as over the rise they come. Then hard on the brake, swing right. Gun the motor now, up over the line. Martin Nutt has a look on the inside. Savage twitch there from Karsten Kurtz's machine. And Martin Nutt there going through. The Honda swings its way through MRF corner. Now, what can he do to try to find a way past the German? Meantime, this man, Koji Ammermeyer, is out on his own. Nobody now ready to challenge him as Martin Nutt does go through for second place, and already, having gone through, is pulling away from Karsten Kurtz. You can see from the way that Martin Nutt is riding, he's really determined now, doing his level best to bring the gap down between himself and the race leader, as they're limping into the pits is number 40, Petr Polansky. So the Czech Republic rider out of the race as Koji Ammermeyer continues to lead, although Martin Nutt is closing on him, no doubt about it. He's bringing the gap down by over a second a lap now. Martin Nutt is really charging. Up to third has gone Yamada, down to fourth is Karsten Kurtz, and fifth at the moment is Max Neukirchner. Great battle between the two Germans there, but a very good day this for the Japanese because Ammermeyer leads, and now Akihiro Yamada, having his best showing of the weekend, is up into third position. Change to fourth, Max Neukirchner on the inside, and through he goes. Neukirchner up into fourth, graduating from 125 machines to 250s here in India, and down to fifth goes Karsten Kurtz, who raced here a couple of years ago and knows the circuit therefore. Further back, number 5 going through, Guido Ultgem, and race leader Koji Ammermeyer continues to lead. His fellow countryman here, though, which is Akihiro Yamada, going very well indeed, despite the efforts now of Max Neukirchner to reel him in. Yamada accelerates now off up towards the end of the lap. Koji Ammermeyer, who's already won this on aggregate, is now just starting to inch away once again from Martin Nutt. He's relaxed his pace sufficiently, and now when need arises, he can just pull away once again. The checkered flag at the ready, and Koji Ammermeyer now, who has had a very successful visit to India, racing outside his native Japan for the first time in the MRF Grand Prix this year. He's going to win 4 out of 4. Some record, isn't it? Over the brow of the hill, hard on the brake, swings the bike right. The Yamaha TZ is going to win here for the 4th time in 4 races, and Koji Ammermeyer, after a great ride, comes home victorious, the class of the 250 field. Martin Nutt finishes second on the racetrack with Max Neukirchner third, Akihiro Yamada finishing 4th with Karsten Kurtz 5th, and Lukas Vorecha in 6th. A tired but happy Koji Ammermeyer, the dominant rider in the 250 class, being presented with the MRF trophy after a great weekend of racing. The final leg of the MRF trophy for the Formula 3 cars. This is the man who's leading on aggregate, Jeremy Dufour. He's not won a race yet, but he's 2 points clear of Martin O'Connell. Dufour is on pole, and Martin O'Connell in the Toms lines up second on the grid. Third on the grid, Akbar Ibrahim, replacing the injured Naren Karthikeyan. And this is the car at the very back of the field. David Walton racing for the first time, but even now he's not out of the proverbial woods because a puncture on the grid has to be rectified. All the other teams lend a hand, but at last David Walton's car, the Reynard Alfa Romeo, is ready to start. 10 laps, the lights go to green, on board with Charles Hall, great getaway by him again. He goes to the inside, Akbar Ibrahim's on the inside line, Martin O'Connell cuts across and almost tangles though with Ibrahim. Fantastic start from all of them. Somehow they managed to avoid making contact, and Martin O'Connell leads. Jeremy Dufour is second, Charles Hall is third, and Akbar Ibrahim is in 4th place as there Charles Hall looks at the inside line to try and take second off Dufour. Can't do it. Well, the first Formula 3 race had a very close start. That was even closer, could oh so nearly have ended in tears. But Martin O'Connell leads, Jeremy Dufour second, third is Charles Hall, 4th is Ibrahim, 5th is John Ingram, and 6th is Atlanta Balakamur. We're on board now with Charles Hall accelerating up to the far side of the circuit. Akbar Ibrahim goes through and gets all sideways and gets very crossed up and drifts out wide, and past him again goes Charles Hall. Wow, as soon as you get offline, it is so dusty, and that's what caught out Ibrahim. Sideways went the car, and now he's got John Ingram right behind him. Then it's Malagamua, and then Stephen Young behind the Sri Lankan. Accelerating their way off there, round the first lap. Here's the replay of the start. Now look at Ibrahim on the inside, and watch Martin O'Connell dive across to cover the line. Squeezes him towards the grass. Ibrahim has to lift. O'Connell still leads, but that drops Ibrahim down to 4th place. Here's David Walton then in the Reynard Alfa Romeo. He's had a really torrid time here in India, but at long last the car gets into the race, and David very glad so to do. O'Connell and Jeremy Dufour, first and second. They're the two battling for the championship. As there up the inside goes Ibrahim, and again he's caught himself out on the dust. So slippery. He runs wide, but he's still got his foot in. Through he goes on the inside line once again, up into 3rd place, and now Charles Hall's attacking again, sideways up the inside line he goes. Can he go through to 3rd place? Whoa, very close indeed. He can't quite do it. So, Akbar Ibrahim hangs on to 3rd. Charles Hall right behind him. Great racing this. Down they go, under the MRF arch. Again, Charles Hall has a look on the inside. Can't find a way past. He's still all over the back though of Akbar Ibrahim. The two had a great race in the first Formula 3 10-lapper earlier on in the day. Charles Hall came out on top then. Ibrahim at the moment holding sway. Poor old David Walton still having a fairly torrid time, running out of road here with the down on power, Alfa-powered Reynard. Is able to rejoin, albeit a little further adrift. Charles Hall still doing his best to find a way past Ibrahim. Now, is he close enough to have a go this time? Yes, he is, because Ibrahim makes a mistake there and gets all sideways. Charles Hall has a run up the inside. Surely he's going to go through this time. No, he's not. Ibrahim just squeezes him out, going through the corner. Fantastic racing between the two. Akbar Ibrahim having his first Formula 3 meeting for 2 or 3 years, and Charles Hall in only his 4th ever Formula 3 race, and a very evenly matched contest it is between the two. Charles Hall now will look for a run up the inside. Is he going to go for it? Yes, he is. Can he go through? Yes, up into 3rd place he goes. Charles Hall goes 3rd, gets all sideways, leaves a gap on the inside, and Ibrahim comes back through. Brilliant racing. Akbar Ibrahim back up into 3rd place. Down to 4th goes Charles Hall. But at the moment, Martin O'Connell leads Jeremy Dufour. And because of the way that you score points, 10, 6, 4, 3, 2 and 1, just as in a Grand Prix, that is going to give Martin O'Connell the MRF trophy, the MRF Grand Prix on aggregate. Here he comes then, through that final corner on the lap, then to accelerate his way up across the line. Martin O'Connell then on target, not only to win this race, but also to win the MRF Grand Prix on aggregate. Through he goes, the Toms, the dominant car here today. Last week it was the Dalaras, and there is the Dalara which won 2 races last week in the hands of Ray Cup, still battling for 3rd place, now in the hands of Akbar Ibrahim, with Charles Hall, who again runs a little bit wide there, puts a wheel on the dirt, and poor David Walton, with that down on power engine, limps into the pit lane. A sad way for him to end his time in India. His teammate Stephen Young, though, there in the VW powered Reynard. The car, 12 years old, is still battling with Delantha Malagavur, the Sri Lankan, in the 1993 Dalara. The fight for 3rd still raging on. Charles Hall right on the limit now, heading towards the Castrol Arch. Is he going to be able to find a way past Akbar Ibrahim? Tries the outside, tries the inside. Is there a gap? He's going to go for it again, but Akbar Ibrahim just there, able to box him out, covers the line. You can't fault Charles Hall's determination, can you? All round the lap he's trying, but Martin O'Connell is on target now to come up to win the MRF trophy here at Tribhuvan. The checkered flag goes out and Martin O'Connell wins the MRF Grand Prix. Jeremy Dufour comes home in 2nd place, and across the line for 3rd is going to be Akbar Ibrahim. Although Charles Hall has not given up the fight yet, you can see all the dust still being kicked up. It's like being on a rally stage. Sideways, Charles Hall out of the final corner. There's the checkered flag. And Charles Hall finishes 4th, Akbar Ibrahim 3rd, but Martin O'Connell wins the MRF Grand Prix on aggregate, despite not scoring at all in the first of the 4 races. The Birmingham driver is very happy indeed. The top step of the podium, Martin O'Connell victorious, Jeremy Dufour 2nd, and Akbar Ibrahim joining him on the podium.
As they say themselves, they're 100 years behind here, and there are parts of it that are quite frustrating, but tremendous people and tremendous support they give you, and it's been a pleasure coming here for 2 weeks, and I'd like to come back again sometime if they'll have me.
It's gone quite well, considering that when I came here I hadn't been driving a car for 2.5 years, and I hadn't been racing since the end of '95, so I think it was quite a good weekend.
I've enjoyed it immensely. Big learning curve. We came here the week before. We were a little late getting testing. Once we did, I found the pace really in the 3rd race.
The driver's work over, the team's work was still going on though. All the cars and the bikes had to be packed away into the crates, courtesy of MRF, ready for the long trip home. but everybody that had been at the MRF Grand Prix had had a thoroughly great time.